think you should.
Welcome to this week's episode of Whoscussion. For this week, we're going to be starting off season 25 with Remembrance of the Daleks and going on to the Happiness Patrol, Remembrance of the Daleks. For part B, this week we're going to be doing Max Warp, which is, it's just Top Gear. We're going to be doing Top Gear.
Space Top Gear.
Space Top Gear. And finishing it off with the Sixth Doctor story, Intuition. Remembrance of the Daleks. Harriet Skelly, take us away.
Okay, so we're immediately greeted with the Doctor and Ace landing on Earth in the 60s.
Yeah, it's 63.
Yeah, particular year for interesting year. And are outside Cold Hill. Yeah. So immediately you know that this is going to be just like, if you know anything about Doctor, this is amazing. What's going on right now? And immediately the Doctor notes that something unusual is happening when he notices that there's a van just sitting there with a big aerial on the roof of it that seems out of place for the time period that he's in, or at least it's fairly sophisticated for the time. And it does appear that it is a magnetic wave scanner. And they are picking up some very unusual things. And basically, as we've figured out from the title sequence, this is about Daleks. So we immediately go in to find that there is a Dalek around. Particularly, it is in the landfill that he was in, right? That is where.
It's in Totter's Lane. Yeah, the junkyard.
And it's found in the junkyard in Totter's Lane. The Doctor, throughout this, there's comments made about the Doctor's previous being here.
Yeah, a week earlier as well.
His comments about being there literally a week earlier, where they try to get to this Dalek, and he makes a comment about how he knows that there's no way out of here, and they're like, how do you know that? And it's like, because I've been here before, like literally last week.
It's fascinating because the first Doctor says that exact line in the first story. There's no other way out of here, go find a policeman.
Yeah, it's pretty great. So facing off against the Dalek, luckily Ace has decided that she is going to bring some Nitro 9 around, even though the Doctor said not to. But he's like, he realizes immediately he's okay with it because he says to her, "Hey, where's that Nitro 9 you're not carrying?" And she just hands it to her. She knows, and he knows. There's a mutual thing going. So he blows up that Dalek and realizes that things are going a bit weird down here on it. So he and Ace they try to figure out what's going on. Go inside the school. Find that there is a transmat in the bottom of it, and it's being used by Imperial Daleks to transmit down to Earth from their mothership. And there appears to be another faction of Daleks, renegade Daleks. Not so. Yeah, that's basically what's going on. Is that there's two sets of Daleks here on Earth trying to do some stuff, and we're not too sure about what that is for a little while until the Doctor goes off to a mortuary, or is it a funeral home? I think it's a funeral home.
The funeral home.
Where he goes to pick up a casket that apparently he left here last week. Interesting. Very.
I love the manipulation of time there, though. Like, for him, it's been hundreds of years, but for Earth, it was last week. Like
exactly, it was last week for Earth, but he's gone through several regenerations and hundreds of years for him. And so he comes to pick it up. The guy there is a bit awkward, weirded out by this because supposedly the Doctor, when he was here to drop off the casket, was actually an old guy with a cane. So the Doctor does some very interesting things. Reminds me a lot of the Silver Nemesis, which is weird because we haven't got to that, I guess.
Yeah.
Where he's,
can we redo that? I know we've already done it for Whoscussion, but can we do like a little mini segment for Silver?
We can do a mini segment for that because there's a lot of parallels here, especially when it comes to the Hand of Omega and Silver Nemesis sort of stuff going on. So anyway, we find out that this is the Hand of Omega. The Doctor puts a baseball bat in it and imbues it with like solar energy, I guess, something like that, some Omega power, mega energy.
Like a breakfast cereal. Have you had your Omega energy today? Gee Willikers is a Time Tot's favorite cereal.
No, they're going to be Amigos. That's what they were.
And Romana's watching it on TV like, oh my god, what have we done?
Romana. These are Omega-Os. That's great. Anyway, so he picks up the Head of Omega, which is just a big casket that floats and talks back to him. Basically, it's slightly sentient in some way. So he's taking it away to try and go and bury it. Brings it to a blind priest. Blind priest buried in a hole. Unfortunately, some humans who are working with the renegade Daleks spot him putting this down, and they dig it back up and try to bring it off back to their leaders and all that sort of stuff. Who throughout most of this story, we're getting flashes to where the guy is talking to the leader of the renegades, or at least what seems to be the leader of the renegades. It looks like a person sitting in a Dalek casing, right? And it's got a helmet on, and it kind of sounds like a little bit like it's trying to be Davros. And you're like, this renegade Dalek's Davros. We know it. It's totally him, like, obviously. And then at one time, when it spins around and a little girl pops out.
I love that reveal.
You're like, what? That's not Davros? Where's Davros? And then you realize later on down the line, when the Emperor opens up, and there's Davros. And it's like, wow, they actually got us on that one.
Yeah. Exactly.
It was pretty great. But anyway, so they finally get the Renegades get the hand. Meanwhile, Imperials are having a bit of a time, trying to get this Hand of Omega as well. They land, they fight the Renegade Daleks, manage to kind of defeat them with the influence of some other human characters, and they get their hands on the Hand of Omega. Davros has the hand. And this is where one of the greatest interactions between the Doctor and Davros happen, where he goads him very well into using the Hand of Omega as he attempts to sort out his son so that it works. The sun on Scarrow, the sun in the main solar system where Scarrow is. He tries to fix it up so the way that the Hand of Omega works is to change the sun's composition so that it's useful in time travel experiment, and because basically to turn it into a power source.
Yeah, $2 shop Eye of Harmony almost.
Yeah, kind of. It's like the precursor to whatever creates the Eye of Harmony, basically. So it would definitely help them a lot along the way. But as it turns out, because the old Hand of Omega is a little bit sentient, the Doctor has told it to not go ahead and do that, but instead supernova their sun. It's pretty great. Just the fantastic goading into him, like just insulting the crap out of him, and then when he goes to threaten to use it, he's like, no, Davros, don't, and thinking that he acts that so well that Davros thinks that it's his it's his end game that he should use it, and then he uses it, and then he screams and yells, and then gets right out of there basically. Exit stage right, because
I love because the Daleks are like, Emperor, what do we do? And he's like, bye.
Yeah, bye, and then they're just like, Emperor is leaving. Emperor is getting into a spaceship. Emperor is left, and then they blow up. It's perfect. Anyway, then the Hand of Omega goes back to Gallifrey. Finally, they're probably really unsure as to where that had gone the whole time. Loved it how that's never explained really. But anyway, it's all fixed, and Ace kind of looks at the Doctor like, you really could have just told me about this, instead of doing this spooky background game thing that you did here, where basically the entire audience would have thought that you were willingly handing over a superpower to Davros, what are you doing? Yeah, the story has definitely made Seven a lot more devious. So
yeah, this story was designed to basically tell BBC, we know how to do Doctor Who better than you.
Yeah, that's effectively it. Yeah, because they do it very effectively. They do it very, very well. And I guess like this sort of really seals in that whole idea of the companion is the viewing screen for the audience. Because Ace does have like a few like key points in Nitro 9, getting yourself into a bit of trouble with the Hand of Omega battle axe, bat, I guess. So
Space battle axe.
Yeah, space axe. So she definitely has her stuff with this, but otherwise, when it comes to like the completion of the story, it's all the Doctor doing like real background things, real sneaky subterfuge stuff. So it makes it seem like the Doctor is not necessarily the protagonist. The companion is the protagonist. The Doctor's just sort of there doing things.
Yeah, I feel Ace is definitely the archetype of what the new Who companion would be.
Yeah, is that they become the viewing platform for us as an audience, and that's why we're supposed to relate to them and have them. We're supposed to live vicariously through them, and that's why they become the protagonists, and that's why all the new Who stories are based around their lives and their stuff, instead of around the Doctor, because the Doctor is just the agent of the story, anything else. Which is good and bad. It played out well in this. Played out perfectly in Remembrance of the Daleks, but that's because he's actually being like real devious, and in the background he's not just a plot device in this, he is
with a magic wand either.
Yeah, he is being interesting and doing sneaky stuff, and like giving you the opportunity to like figure out what it is as well. It's not like it's done in the background. It is done in the background, but it's not the word I'm looking at. It's not done off screen. It's done on screen, so you can absolutely try and figure out what's going on here, what those things mean. You already know who Omega is at the time, so as soon as you hear that name drop, you should kind of know what the deal is with it, and immediately know that it's kind of intense, especially considering it's able to transmute a bat into something that can kill a Dalek. So
yeah,
it's obviously something poignant, and his relationship to it, the fact that he's able to talk to it as though it's a TARDIS, basically makes it that much more interesting. Compared to other times where the Doctor just turns up and saves everybody because he waved his magic wand. It doesn't quite have the same finesse to it, does it?
That's why I think it was such a good idea, like a stroke of genius for Jonathan Nathan Turner to remove the sonic screwdriver from the show.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that like the sonic screwdriver can and has been a fantastic plot device, but it's not necessary for every single story, and using it consistently to get him out of problems means that it's not good storytelling anymore. It's lazy stuff. If you have a continuous plot device that is used in the same way every single time, then it's just going to get boring for everyone. Like it's not a lightsaber.
Yeah,
and it doesn't act like one at all. Like even in the actual original series, the lightsaber wasn't used like that as a plot device. He had to learn how to use it, so it works as a device. The sonic screwdriver does not, because the Doctor does not need to learn how to use it, and giving it an arbitrary way of being non-useful, like would make sense, but you should have done a lot more than that. And this kind of Hand of Omega thing proves that very well, that because it's a brand new plot device, and we don't know anything about it, but we can kind of guess, and the Doctor's secret about it, it makes it that much more interesting. And then when we finally get told what it does and what it's used for, we're kind of freaking out that the Daleks are going to use it and do stuff, and you're really unsure as to how it could work in their favor. But then it happens, and you realize everything clicks into place at that point. You realize that the Doctor absolutely never would have handed this over to the Daleks if he didn't have a plan, and you knew that he was just goading. He was goading. He's goading Davros into destroying his own world, because that's what the Doctor does these days.
It helps solidify Seven as well, because Seven really didn't have a character last season.
Not really. He was just a continuation of Baker more than anything else. But this really solidifies him as being one, but more and more devious and tricksy. Yeah.
I think you're right. There's definitely a huge amount of Hartnell in Seven, especially the sort of malicious side, which we really haven't seen in 4 since 1, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like 6 was a bit malicious, but not really in the same way as 1. Like 1 is absolute.
Yes.
And 7 is absolute.
Yes.
And
yes.
I love when like Davros is like, you tricked me, and the 7th Doctor's like, no, Davros, yourself.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's so brutal, like, because like Davros has nothing now, and the Doctor's like, dude, you stepped to the Doctor. Like, that was your idea, was to step to me. It's not.
He even says it like at the beginning of the conversation when Davros is trying to like play the big man. The Doctor says, every single time you've come against me, you've lost.
Yeah.
Are you seriously trying this again? And then he does, and then the Doctor's like, well, I'm just going to take more things away from you then.
Yeah.
Like, it's beautiful. It's utterly beautiful.
That's so fantastic. What's really good about the reveal of the child being the leader of the Renegade Daleks is Terry Malloy actually provided the voice for when she's inside the suit.
Yeah, exactly. That's why
that's so good. And what's amazing is it says Dalek voice, and there's actually an acronym of Terry's name. So it says like Merv something or other. It's really well played, and nobody clicked back in the 80s that it was Terry Malloy. And so like the final reveal is like, hey, that's Terry Malloy as Davros. People were losing their minds. What's interesting as well is the headmaster of Coal Hill gets killed. So that's Susan's headmaster.
Yeah.
is killed a week later by the Daleks. Which is funny because like Susan hasn't met the Daleks by the time she leaves.
But that just raises an interesting question though. When did Ian and Barbara get home? That is a week after.
2 years. 2 years.
It's 2 years after.
Yeah,
right.
It's 2 years after. Walking up to school, walking back to the thing like, yeah, no, he died. They found his body in a graveyard.
Well, the thing is that's going to happen 2 years later though. They're going to get back and they're going to be like, whoa, it's been 2 years. I mean, like, where have you guys been? 1, your headmaster's dead. 2, also, I'm pretty sure your school blew up as well. Yeah.
A lot of stuff's gone down. The hand.
Are you going to become evil now, Ian? Yeah.
I should become evil now and be the actual reveal at the end of class. That would have been so cool if the reveal at the end of class was evil Ian.
That is one of the big. That's one of the worst takeaways I think from Remembrance is that it being in Coal Hill, it lends so many things to future references to when Clara and the Doctor becomes the caretaker there as well. Which is Seven didn't want to apply for that job.
Yeah,
when he goes there the first time, it means that there's people on the crew and on the writing staff that know these things, but then they go in and don't use it later.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I think that really does come down to Patrick Ness not having any support, though.
It does. It absolutely does come down to that. And if he did have the support, then we probably would have seen something like that. At the same time, it makes this bittersweet when you're seeing it in Remembrance, because there's so much to this that could have been done even more spectacular.
Yeah. Ace in this story, what is great about Ace is she helps to reveal that one of the soldiers is actually a turncoat. She also we experience the prejudice of the 60s through her as well, which is fantastically handled and isn't preachy, which was like, hats off to not only the writing staff but to Jonathan Nathan Turner as well. And it's just like it's beautifully handled. Also, the day that this happens, the 2 days that this takes place over, is the day where they re-aired the first episode of Doctor Who.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why when she just leaves that guy's mother's house. Yeah. And the BBC advertisement plays for, we're going to re-show the episode of and then it stops. And like, Doctor Who.
It's so good. I was like, how are you guys going to get away with that? Big Finish, I think rather unfortunately, this is one of the few times I'm going to whack them on the wrists here, is they actually explain that away. There's a replacement TV show that Sidney Newman and Verity Lambert made in the Whoniverse, and it's like Doctor something. I can't remember what it is. I think it actually is Doctor Mysterio.
Well, I mean, the thing is that it makes sense, because the idea is that the Doctor Who, at least in 63, was supposed to be exactly the same.
Yeah, running concurrently.
They're supposed to be the same. Like, that the Earth Prime and Earth of the Doctor Who universe are supposed to be succinct right up until...
Yeah, and then the Doctor throws up and is like, I'm going to ruin everything.
Yeah, basically. And
I love that the Daleks have clearly picked up the Doctor was here really recently as well, with the Daleks investigating Todder's Lane, because they probably picked up residual TARDIS energy. And they were like, hey...
They picked up the Hand of Omega, obviously.
Yeah.
And then, they picked up the TARDIS.
Hey, you need to go to Todder's Lane and see if the Doctor's there. I obey. Oh, he's not here. Oh, and there's soldiers who want to kill me. This is great. It's fantastic. I'm real happy about that.
Well, they're not really going to do much. Oh, Nitro 9. Oh, I'm dead.
No, I'm dead.
But yeah.
How long have I got, Ace? 10 seconds. Boom! Ace! That was not 10 seconds. Oh, not everybody's perfect. The Doctor's like, I almost regenerated because of you. That's a thing that just happened.
It's not the first time he was regenerated because of this. And will not be the last.
And will not be the last. He's like, thanks, Ace. That was fantastic. This crew actually predates Unit, because Unit's not made until after the Yeti attack in the London Underground. So they're called Countermeasure. They're called
and then when he calls the leader guy, he says to him Brigadier, and it's like, that's hilarious.
Yeah. And the guy looks at him and goes, no.
It's sad at the same time, because it's not happening, but then it's like, yeah.
I love him though, because he like looks at the Doctor and goes, that isn't my name. Like, that's not my rank.
That is not my rank.
He's like, I'm ground captain. I'm a group captain, man. That's my rank. And the Doctor's like, whatever, just like listen to me.
I don't care about your ranks. The only rank that matters to me is Time Lord.
Do you reckon the little girl is a replicant?
No, she's a real girl. They sell that. They say that the reason why they needed her in there was because they needed a human child with enough creativity to power.
Oh, right, yeah, because that was one of the issues with the Valen War, right? It's because they couldn't think creatively. Exactly.
So because obviously the Emperor is currently a human organic component, creative component. It means that the Imperial Daleks are all right. But,
the Renegades are like, what are we doing?
Renegades are.
And we get the special weapons Dalek as well. I love that Dalek so much. It is so brutal. Yeah. It just screams World War II tech as well. Like,
yeah, it does.
It's so beautiful, because like the Daleks were an allegory for the Nazis.
And that is also what like is really sold in this as well. When Ace explains the infighting between the Daleks to the rest of the crew at the time, the scientists and the army. She basically is like, one of these races got all mutated and have more bionic stuff going on. The other one does not. So they're hating each other because they gender purity and stuff.
Yeah.
And like no one says anything about the Nazis, especially considering they reference the fact that they fought the war recently. Pretty immaculately.
I love that female scientist though. She's like, Doctor, when you asked if you wanted me to help, I was thinking scientifically, not carrying a bloody television. And he's like, I'm sorry, I can't teach you about this technology because it will destroy Earth's timeline. Yeah. I cannot teach you how this works. This will not be a good thing. And she's like, oh, okay. He's like, and I like that, like, she's on board with it because she, like, understands. Because, like, she clicks on really quickly to Ace. She goes, you haven't been born yet, you just said. And she's like, and the lady's like, time travel. All right, got it.
Yeah, I figured it out.
Yeah, I figured it out. And it's really good that, like, people actually have ears. I know that's a weird thing to say, but a lot of times in fiction, somehow people's ears just don't work. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't hear what that person just said randomly, even though I'm standing right there. Whereas, like, things happen in the plot because somebody hears exactly what somebody just said. And I love that because it happens in real life as well. You overhear, or you're actually listening to somebody and you're like, hang on, that doesn't match up. It's a great way to catch out liars. And it's just like, this is the first time in ages.
Yeah, like when Ace picks up that, what's his face says stuff about the Hand of Omega. And he's like, how do you know about that? She's like, you dirty rat.
And then the group captain's like, hang on a second, are you a dirty rat? And he's like, oh yeah, oh no, I'm totally gonna get caught out. Damn. And I can see where he's coming from, though, because he thought by teaming up with the Daleks it would like save Britain. So he was doing it.
That's the thing, is that at the same time, I don't think that is the case, actually.
Really?
Because the lead guy who was working with the Rebel Daleks, he wants power because he thinks that Britain fought on the wrong side of, which is.
I remember now. That's the old fella, right? That's helping the renegades out. Oh, exactly. Whoa! And, oh my gosh!
Yeah, and the soldier guy is in league with him, so it's like, no, no.
Oh, whoa! Then the birthplace of the neo-Nazis.
Yeah, which makes sense because of the aviator jacket and the blonde hair that he's got.
Jeez. Yeah. Oh, I totally forgot about the creepy old guy.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's the one that's funding the Rebel Daleks as well.
Exactly. Yep. So,
wow. Well, this is such a good story. Oh my god. Like, just wow. Like, guys, even if you've listened to us, we haven't ruined everything that happens. It is a fantastic piece of Doctor Who lore. And also, in the companion chronicle, The Beginning, which is about Susan and the Doctor leaving Gallifrey, Susan actually talks about the fact that grandfather had a strange hovering casket following him.
Yes.
He ushered it in before us, and as I walked inside, I heard grandfather talking to a woman, and I'm like, oh wow, that actually ties into Name of the Doctor as well. Well done, guys.
We had to move the casket to another.
Yeah, it's like we had to do that because Big Finish are like making sure, because like Big Finish has fixed the problem with Name, as he should have the Hand of Omega, and so the Big Finish are like, okay, so it went into the TARDIS before them. Yeah. Like, Stephen, call us next time. If you're going to do stuff about pre-leaving Gallifrey, we need to be able to make sure you don't screw up the continuity.
Because you're going to screw up the continuity.
Well, don't worry. We'll get Carol Ann Ford to come in and record something to fix it. And she did.
Hey, so, you know what you kind of going to come in to do? Hey.
Yeah, right. Oh, my God. I like your idea that you brought up about 50 plus Whoscussions ago, where the moment could have flicked between heaps of past companions.
Yeah. I mean, the moment should have.
And the Silver Nemesis.
I mean, it does kind of limit.
They're already conscious weapons.
Yeah, and it does already limit. It does, but it limits the ideas down to everything that the Seventh Doctor had, though. So it kind of like, I mean, it makes a lot more sense if you're going to say that.
Because that means one prepared for this forever.
Yeah. Well, it's not necessarily that one prepared for it, but it makes more sense that it makes more sense in 8 being the
War Doctor.
The War Doctor, because it means that 7's already prepared for 8 to be the Warder, and the Remembrance of the Daleks makes it seem like 7 was already well at preparing this.
Yeah,
because
he starts the Time War.
Yeah, he wants to make sure that the Daleks are in as poor position as possible for when the Time War starts, and that's why he blows up Skaro. Or is it trying to make it seem is that he's trying to give them time technology as well, which is what they're trying to get. They're trying to get to be as powerful as the Time Lord. So that's what Davros is complaining about. So the Seventh Doctor knows that the Time War is coming. Yeah, basically the Silver Nemesis and the Hand of Omega was being set up for that. Well, at least that's what we can say post this. We don't know if that was. We don't know if that was going to be the intention.
That actually is. Funnily enough, because this is part of the Andrew Cartmel master plan. He was the lead writer of season 25 and 26.
And he planned for there to be the Time War?
He planned for Gallifrey and the Daleks to go at it.
War. Wow.
So he was going to have Ace be the first ever non-Gallifreyan to join the Academy as well.
I see.
So the Doctor's actually grooming her to become a Time Lady.
Yeah.
Andrew Cartmel and Jonathan Nathan Turner had this 4-season-long game plan. Sophie Aldred and Sylvester McCoy had already said yes to it.
BBC said no.
And then BBC were like, oh, we're going to cancel it. And they're like, but we've just made the show awesome. It's not our fault. You made season 24 and that bombed our ratings. That's on you. And I really, really wish it kept going because Remembrance is a stroke of absolute genius. And in Day of the Doctor, and I know we bash on this a lot, guys, I'm really sorry, but in Day of the Doctor, the General says, how could you use a weapon that can pass judgment on you? Well, the 7th Doctor had 2 weapons that could do that exact same thing, so shut the hell up.
Yeah, pretty much.
7 didn't even care. Like, when the Silver Nemesis is like, when will I be free? He's like, you'll be free when I have no use for you. And I'm just like, you're evil. Like, you're actually evil.
I guess that's kind of the point, though, is that he's pointing at the fact that 7 was evil.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of person would use something like this? Only an evil one. Hey, hasn't used these before? Yeah, he's evil. We're trying to say that.
We're trying to say that 7 was proper evil.
So I mean that works, but at the same time, yeah, it's weird. The moment doesn't make sense because if they'd set it up properly, it would have made a little bit more sense. But still, like, considering it's able to also do like all this time things that it did, it makes it seem more like it's like a weaponized TARDIS more than anything else.
Yeah,
and it didn't even set that up properly. Having a weaponized TARDIS would have been like, that would have been something cool to show us and like set up like in previous lines. You know, we've already seen the TARDIS become a paradox machine, all that sort of stuff. So having the Doctor like talk about a TARDIS that like talk about TARDISes that were used to basically destroy time in certain places, like that would have been something really cool to go.
Oh, you mean like that time the TARDIS became the Big Bang?
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, that time that was written by the same guy.
Exactly.
That's so frustrating. But like in the comic book The Forgotten, which I know comic books are, they're fluidly canon.
Yeah.
8 solidifies that the moment is the key of Rassilon with the Silver Nemesis with the hand of Omega.
Yeah, but that's not canon.
Yeah. But hey, I don't give a crud because it's still in our folder for 26B. So whatever, Moffat, whatever. But you could just use it's Whoscussion canon. But anyway,
Whoscussion canon, the 50th never happened. So.
Yeah, exactly. Whoscussion canon, John Hurd is the old Paul McGann. So
but we're at the moment where you seem to trying to avoid onto the next story. So.
We're gonna jump into the next story.
I don't know why you. I'm not sure about why you dislike it so much, actually. So Here's the thing. The Happiness Patrol, I went into this pretty cold because I remember really not liking this story. But after having watched it, I really liked it. I had a good time. It reminded me a bit of Paradise Towers, but a less camp. Yeah.
So anyway, basically, the Doctor comes to Terra Alpha, and no, he actually meets a fella called from a planet Terra Sigma, and he goes, "Oh, I used to be called Theta Sigma." Which is so fantastic because Moffat's whole the Doctor's real name. No one cares. I'm calm. So the Doctor is like, hey, I've actually heard some strange stuff about this. So the Doctor's already turned up to overthrow the government. In the first scene he's in, he's turned up to overthrow the government. It's amazing because it's like he hasn't even come here to find out if the government's bad. He knows it's bad. He wants to overthrow it. 7 is like, he is an absolutist. He is like, this is what it is, and I will never change my mind about it. And it's fantastic. So, our first introduction to the government, and this government is so fascist. It's beautiful because we just had the Nazi allegory, and now we've got this like purist thought crime like environment. So
yeah, it's very interesting.
Apparently, the story was meant to be attacking the Thatcher government. Weird, but I don't know. I wasn't alive at the time.
Yeah, that's the thing is that it was very poignant for the time, and even like it's even still poignant now, particularly when the kind of what's the word?
The sentient Cheeto?
No, it's the. All right. No, absolutely not what I was going for.
Oh, okay.
No, it's about So it's more poignant now because of drugs.
Right.
With the rising ability to control human thoughts and stuff with sedatives and all that sort of stuff, it would be plausible to assume that if a government with enough power could, lace the water with something that caused everyone to be cheerful and happy all the time. So that's why it's very poignant now. But I think the reason why it was so against the Thatcher government at the time was Thatcherism was very much about hiding the bad things away, and
the fact that a whole bunch of people had lost their jobs and the government wasn't doing anything to help them.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
That basically it was not good to it's very it's sort of like the negative connotation to that whole England deal with everything's okay sort of idealism that they have.
Yeah. So
that was the deal behind it. But yeah, there's the Thatcherism is played out in a lot of pseudo sci-fi dystopian things as well.
Really?
From English writers. Well, yeah, that's what V for Vendetta is around as well. Is Thatcherism is the idea that it stems from.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's very interesting that someone that you think you don't often think when you think like imperialistic and this kind of dystopia. You don't often think about that when it comes to a legitimate government that existed in Britain. You think Nazis, North Korea. You think that
World War II, Italy.
Yeah, you don't think that was a legitimate thing that happened in Britain.
Wow, that's whoa. So yeah, the first instance we see of the outright brutality of this government is a person sees a person in a trench coat sees a woman sitting down and she looks genuinely glum, and so he sits down beside her and he's like, hey, you look sad. And she's like, oh well, yeah, things aren't really going, I'm happy, of course I'm happy. And he's like, no, are you though? She's like, no, yeah, of course I'm happy. And he's like, oh, I don't think you are. Hey, you should join me at this meet where people who want to be sad can turn up. And she's like, oh, okay. So she takes his card and he's like, I'll flip it over. And we never know what it says on the other side. I like that. I really like that wasn't revealed.
No, we found out what it said.
What did it say?
Does it say? I know the doctor says it later as well. He says, it legit says...
oh, yeah, I undercover agent. I remember now. Yes, that's in the final part. It's finally revealed at the end what it says. Yeah. He's an undercover agent. And Seven doesn't care. He's like, hey, so can you take me to your leader? And the guy's like, wait, aren't you scared? He's like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, and then knocks that guy out, and it's just perfect.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you, Doctor. So we see that this woman.
Actually, I remember even worse. So he's he's also almost on the spectrum of being a killjoy because of his undercoverness.
Yeah.
So when he gets knocked out by the doctor and left for the brigade to come and get rid of whoever he's picked up. They see him, and he's sad, so they just blow him away.
Yeah, he's like, no, wait,
no.
But so we find out that the executions are comical on purpose,
yeah.
And I hadn't picked up on that when I first watched it, which led me to hate the story. But I now realize it so that they know being a killjoy is a punishable offense and you will die, but at least it's happy, everything's sugar gumdrops and goodness, and it seeps into everything. We find out that there's I'd say it's basically sentient. There's a sentient bot that's made legitimately out of candy good. And
skeleton's robotic.
Well, yeah, the skeleton's robotic, but everything else is candied goods. And we find out not only is it to make him aesthetically pleasing, but we find out from his creator, it's also so that if he ever turns, the creator can destroy him, basically. And I really like that relationship his creator and him have, because his creator sees him as like a servant, but like an annoying colleague he can get rid of whenever he wants.
Yeah, basically.
And I like that relationship they have, that there isn't any Frankenstein monster going on. There isn't anything that I'd see as a trope in their relationship. They just seem like genuinely colleagues who don't really get along, but one of them is the superior. There's also a scene where the Candyman tries to choke his leader to death. He goes, if you do that, you instantly stop working. So stop trying to kill me. And the Candyman's like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, exactly. He's like, you can't do anything to me, man. I'm not afraid of you whatsoever. You were designed to scare everyone else but myself. And he's like, oh, okay. And he really puts him in his place. And I love that because the Candyman is on this power trip throughout the whole story. But that one guy isn't phased in the slightest with his power trip. And I just think that's a really good piece of writing. I really want to go back and slap myself because I loved the story when I finished watching it. It is a holdover from season 24 and a lot of its sort of trappings you can see. Yeah. But I feel like at the same time, it's also kind of not just against that trope, also kind of against that whole facade that BBC were forcing on them back in that. Exactly. You know, to force them to be all like, oh, everything's all sunshine and rainbows. Yes. And the Doctor, they've written a story to say, no, nothing is sunshine and rainbows. Yes. We actually worked our asses off trying to give that facade, and it failed us. Yeah. The leader of the government is a woman by the name of Helen A. She's got a husband that comes off as submissive throughout the story, and I love. We'll get to it later on, but I love that character trait is kept up throughout the entire story. He's the submissive old dude that goes, everything's okay, love, everything's okay. And Helen A's like, yes, everything is okay. Whatever I tell you is the truth. And he's like, yep. She has this sort of canine-esque creature that I assume to be a native life form to Terra Alpha before the humans came and colonized it. I like the design. It's an animatronic. I love animatronics, and I really wish New Who would use them a bit more often because I can believe this dog that's clearly a Muppet, right? More than I can believe the lycanthrope from the episode where Queen Victoria creates Torchwood. If your CGI isn't good enough to be convincing, use practical effects. You just have to, because they just look better. And in the long run, they age more gracefully. So this more realistic Muppet than CGI from 2006, is Helen A, the leader of the government's pet. And she really has this connection with it. What's interesting though is she keeps up this facade that love is like, it's a trapping, right? Just be happy, just be happy, just be happy. And so the Doctor meets up with her, clicks into who she is as a person, realizes her relationship with this creature. I think it's called Fifi. It's called Fifi. And he's like, okay, cool. So the Doctor takes a snapshot of that moment. And you as the audience are revealed that he did so later on in the story. And it's played very well. So the Doctor is, I'm going to throw this over. Ace helps the Doctor a bit throughout the story, especially when the Doctor gets captured with this blues-loving gentleman from Terra Sigma. He's like, I came here for a holiday and shit just went upside down. Like, I love this guy. He's not really integral to the plot, but I do love his smooth attitude and the fact that he's like, the government's been overthrown and there's hot ladies everywhere. I'm just gonna live here. And so he it's so like. It's interesting for him to get a payoff as a character when he's kind of like not necessary to the plot, but I enjoyed him nonetheless. It was interesting. Usually I hate characters like that, like non-characters, but there was something about him. I think it's the charisma of the actor. I really enjoyed him and his performance in this. The Doctor finds out that the native Terra Alphians had gone underground, and he teams up with them. I like the design. Again, they're a practical effect. I think they're probably the best use of animatronic masks I've seen in Classic Who, next to the Pteroleptics, of course, from The Visitation, because they actually had blinking eyes. I think that was quite a good... they didn't work all the time, especially some of the background ones where like one eye closed and the next eye closed. But I mean, like there was love put into these characters. There was a lot of hard work clearly put into them, and I really respect the design team for that. I really don't understand how I didn't like the story when I first watched it, because it is dripping with character. which is funny because, the walls are dripping with honeysuckle throughout the story, literally. So it's oozing with character. The Doctor and these Terra Alphians, the Doctor on purpose kills Fifi.
Oh yeah.
And he does it quite viciously, and he does it to prove a point later in the story. It's brutal. So I don't know if he placed Fifi there or he just knew Fifi would go home. Dogs do that though. They will go and try and get back to their abode and be like, yo, I'm getting messed up. So the Doctor comes to Helen A. He's like, hey, look, I've overthrown your government. We also found out earlier that Helen A.'s husband and the creator of Candyman left because the Doctor had destroyed... The Doctor and Ace melted Candyman. It's fantastic. I love it. They literally melted Candyman. And so the creator of Candyman and goes to Helen A.'s husband and is like, do you want to just leave here? Because everything's falling apart. And Helen A.'s husband's like, yep, all right, bye. And Helen A. tries to hop into her escape pod, and the husband and the creator are like, hey guys, so we're leaving because your government failed. Bye. She's like, oh. She goes to leave, and the Doctor's like, emotions should never be controlled. You should never force people to feel specific emotions, even though I'm an evil manipulator myself. You, person who's not me, not a Time Lord, shouldn't be doing things like this. Immortality's a curse. You shouldn't be doing this. And she's like, nah, I'm happy. I'm always going to be happy. And he's like, well, what about love? Does love fit into your category of happiness? She's like, I don't feel love. Love's a weakness. And she walks outside and sees her dead dog. And she breaks down. She breaks in a beautiful performance from the actress who played Helen A. She visibly is destroyed when she sees her dog dead. And the Doctor goes, love. And it's brutal because he proves a point through murder.
Well, he also kills the dog and kills
the Terra Alphians. But
that's
like
not just to prove a point.
But that's the end game, Yeah. The end game is I'm right, you're wrong. And even Ace is like, whoa. Like, Ace is not okay with this either. Like, she has to travel with the dude, so she doesn't lambast him for it. But you see, and hats off to Sophie Aldred, you see that Ace is not okay with this situation. But the Doctor's looking at it from an ends justifies the means point of view, And I'm pretty certain our boy Lennon was the one who came up with that saying. So, what does that say about the Seventh Doctor? So the Doctor and Ace just go, the cool blues-loving musician ends up with all these ladies and an army of ladies, and he's like, I'm gonna live here. The Terra Sigmian is just like, this place failed, I'm gonna go home. And they just leave it. And you don't know the fate. The government's completely destroyed, so the fate of this planet I don't think would be in very solid hands for a long time. And the story just finishes. Again, I have no idea where my distaste for the story came from, because every second of the story is filled with character. It is a wonderful piece of Doctor Who television history, and I am so peeved with my past version of myself for not enjoying this as I do now. Wow. What are your thoughts on Happiness Patrol areas, Kelly?
It was amazing. As I said, there's so many poignant things about the way that that kind of dystopia and the warning signs behind it is, saying that you can't have happiness without sadness. Obviously, that's the main point they're trying to take away with this. But the dystopian feel of being controlled into a certain way of thinking, no matter what kind of thinking, is not good and should not be something that a government would do. And whether it be them trying to tell you, hey, be happy, or don't look behind the curtain, that sort of stuff. It's like it's all in there, and it fits in well. And I like the whole aesthetic behind it as well. I like that, like, this contrast between it does get used later. This contrast does get used later in a lot of things, with the contrast of these fluoro-colored, brightly whites and all that sort of stuff, police patrol basically, that have like guns that look like water guns, but they will destroy everything in their path. It's such a beautiful contrast to see in a story, and it's kind of terrifying when you think about it. It's a very real possibility for human race to end up getting to, and a certain thing like that, it becomes real. It's also played out in that story as well, 19 something. That it plays out very much like that.
1984?
1984, yeah, I think that's the one. Where it's trying to keep appearances and stuff. But
there is a lot of Orwellian in this. Like there's heaps of Orwellian in this.
Exactly. So yeah, I loved it.
Oh yeah, no, I absolutely agree. It's really good. Both these stories I recommend. The good thing is season 25 and season 26 are back-to-back good stories. So we're in for a heck of a ride for our last hurrah for Classic Who, and we'll catch you guys in part B.